This is episode 266 of the Books, Shows, Tunes, and Mad Acts podcast. This episode is titled Having a Ball with Hullabaloo. And stay tuned after the show so you can hear Ants in My Pants. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Books, Shows, Tunes, and Mad Acts. I'm your host, Jennifer Crittenden. Books, Shows, Tunes, and Mad Acts is brought to you by Discreet Guide, the training company for improving your speaking and writing skills. Thank you for joining us, and tune in on Mondays for new episodes. I'm so delighted to welcome a new guest to the show today. Steve Dennis is with us, and he is of Hullabaloo fame, which I had the great fortune of learning about when I had little kids. And Hullabaloo is this really wonderful band local to Southern California who performs a lot for kids. So they do a lot of children's music. So welcome to the show, Steve.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's great to get reacquainted again.
Now that my kids are, X feet tall. Yeah, exactly. So I just want to talk a little bit about Hullabaloo here for a second to introduce you and the band. Hullabaloo is celebrating their 20th year anniversary this year, in part with an album, their 15th, which will be released on February 23rd, and it's called Live from Sun Studio. I should mention this band is super fun. It's been described as performing their own brand of foot stomping, wing flapping, free range, organic kid folk, which is actually a really good description, I think, for the kind of music that you do.
Thank you.
So the band is comprised of Steve Dennis, as we said, and Sean Rolfe and Brendan Kremer.
That's right.
A little bit more information about Hullabaloo. They've performed more than 4,000 shows at venues ranging from local libraries, museums, and birthday parties to fancy concert stages like Austin City Limits, Philadelphia's World Cafe Live. I didn't know you'd been on there. That's so great.
Yeah. Oh, that was so much fun.
I'll bet. Yeah, that's really a great show. Hard Rock Cafe, and of course, Legoland, of course.
Yes. Can't leave out Legoland.
Can't leave out Legoland if you're in Southern California. They've won numerous awards, well-deserved, including Parents' Choice, NAPPA, and Children's Music Web. Parents' Choice said they raised their own foot-stomping ruckus with humor, infectious energy, and appealing blend of country, folk, funk, and rock rhythms. And this one I loved from San Diego Union Tribune. Steve Dennis is the biggest rock star in San Diego. Just ask any preschooler.
Right. In very small circles, that might be true.
I think it's accurate. Exactly. So Steve, I'll introduce him separately here. He plays guitar, sings, and always tries to remember to say thank you and please, which is an inside reference to one of their songs. Before forming Hullabaloo, he was a K-6 music teacher in the public school system for 8 years. And when he's not singing and stomping his feet, he surfs a lot and spends time with his wife and their dog, Lucy. So first, congratulations on the new album at Sun Studio.
Yeah, thank you. That was so much fun to do. A few years before the pandemic, my wife and I were in Memphis being tourists. And of course, we took the Sun Studio tour. And at the end of it, they casually mentioned, oh, yeah, we still have bands that record here at night. And immediately, I made a note to put that on my bucket list. I'm like, yes, please. I'd like to do that.
Right.
And, then, of course, the pandemic hit and we weren't recording or doing anything. But as soon as that led up and we were looking at how to celebrate 20 years, first thing on my list was to get back to Sun Studio and do some recording there.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they still did recording there at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I'm honest, and I don't think they'd mind me saying it, I think they are a museum first and a studio second. Mm-hmm. And I think for a long time they didn't have bands in there. And some people that just really cared about the history and the legacy took the time and, frankly, the money to refurbish it with all vintage gear from that era. And the microphones and the preamplifiers and mixers and so on, and they're bringing it back. And it was I'm not going to lie, it was a little rough around the edges. I've been to way fancier studios,
Okay.
but none as significant as this. So it was overall a really fantastic experience.
Yeah, and really appropriate for your music too, with the history of Johnny Cash and Carl
Yeah.
Perkins. Yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes with your music, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, we've been compared to Johnny Cash and Elvis and Carl Perkins and a lot of those folks that pioneered that place. So it felt right to be there for sure.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And I got to listen to the album yesterday, and it's great, like all
Oh, thank
your
you.
albums. Yeah. So, but tell me what else is new. I don't remember you ever doing a live album before, first of all, but maybe I'm
No,
wrong.
in fact, that was my bandmates Sean and Brendan had been on me for years to do a live album, and I will freely admit that I'm not a big fan of most live albums. I'd like to either see a band live or I'd like to hear how they want to bring their music to life in a studio setting. And so I was hesitant, and the thing that finally convinced me is Sean and Brendan saying, "Look, we've got a lot of these songs on record going back full 20 years.
Hmm.
And we play them so much differently now. Like how we do them live is very different from how they were recorded. A lot of times it's,
Oh,
we play them much faster, we play them slower, we have found new rhythmic breaks that are super fun. And so part of it was for posterity to just sort of document what we sound like now, all these years later. So that was the thing that tipped the scales for me. And the idea of just standing in a room recording like a lot of my heroes did at Sun Studio was also tipped the scales.
yeah, there are some old favorites.
Yeah. Most of those, I think all of those songs we've recorded somewhere before.
Uh-huh.
So it was also to represent what a typical live show is like now. Those are all songs that we do on a regular basis now. Whereas some of the other ones going back, 15, 20 years, they've fallen out of the live set just for a variety of reasons.
Sure. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah. Things change, as is one of your
indeed.
songs, one of my favorite songs,
Oh,
actually.
thank you.
Anything else new about the album, or anything else you'd like to say about the album?
No, it was just a fun time to capture a moment in time, what we sound like now. Our trip to Memphis was a heavy time. We were in Memphis the week that they released the videotape of Tyree Nichols, who was a young African American man that was killed at the hands of was policemen and firemen, I believe. And anyway, it was a very tense time to be in Memphis, and there were protests at night, and the city had a real tension to it. And one of the things that we wanted to do going to Memphis and particularly recording at Sun Studio was not just go there and say, "Oh, isn't this great? This is where Elvis recorded, and isn't that wonderful?" We wanted to just for our own selves just digest what was really happening back in those days. Particularly with race relations and all the things that we think about now, the cultural appropriation of African American music and all that kind of stuff. And it was particularly poignant that weekend with racial issues coming to the fore there, and going to the Lorraine Hotel, which is in Memphis, where Dr. King was shot. The Civil Rights Museum. I don't know any human that could walk through that museum and not just be forever moved by what they present there. So, in addition to it being a big celebration and like, isn't this great? This is where all my heroes recorded. It was a good personal education and a reconciliation of all the tension that was happening, when those heroes of mine were recording and what was going on there. And sadly that it hasn't changed enough yet.
That's what I was just going to say, right? That history is still with us.
Yes,
right.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, history continues, and some of the things we wish we had left behind are still
Here
there.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic, actually, right, that you were there at that time.
Yeah.
Filled with nostalgia, and then right. This is the dark side of it too.
Yeah, and we wanted to, just for ourselves, whether we convey that publicly or not, just kind of have try and reconcile what was happening. I mean, how do you on the one hand celebrate some of these artists who were more than borrowing liberally from a culture that wasn't necessarily their own. Of course, they were adding to it, changing it, and all that. And it's complex, and it was part of our goal just to go in there and just to try and digest all that. I think I'm still digesting it. It's not easy. It's you look at what Elvis and Sam Phillips were doing, and I think in their hearts they were absolutely trying to better race relations. Like if they can be believed. The accounts that you hear, and Sam Phillips, who was at the center of all that. I think he genuinely believed that by bringing the music of these different cultures, that it would bring people together. That's how he presents it, and I'm not going to doubt his word on that. I think today, in our time, we would certainly do it differently. Credit would be given, and things like that.
And
but,
maybe money would be paid.
Yeah, that too. That would be a significant help, right? Yeah. So anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent here, but that was one thing about the Memphis experience that was super profound and important for us. I don't know that certainly doesn't translate to a kid listening to the album, but it, for us, for our own growth, it was a big part of the process.
Yeah, well, quite interesting, right? Yeah, I have an experience sort of outside the studio, but because of the location of the studio.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So since we're sort of near this, I want to ask some questions about this. You do some covers, and I want to talk about those in particular. But most of your songs are original songs.
Right.
So tell me about your songwriting process and how experiences that you have inform or don't inform songs that you write.
Yeah. I think I came to Hullabaloo thinking of myself as a songwriter. Like I did other albums and did other things in the grown-up music world. That was super important to me coming into the genre, that the songs be good. That's where my interest lies, and I think if I have any skill in this, it's writing songs. And so that was always important to me. And then it was definitely a mental transition to get inside the mindset of kids and what they will find funny and what they will find interesting. I think anyone who dives into this genre finds out pretty quick that you can entertain kids on a very surface level very easily. Like you can be silly, you can throw some potty humor in there. You can, it's not terribly difficult to make a kid laugh.
Okay.
Or get silly. I mean, that getting silly is not difficult. To me, the challenge always was, and whether I hit the mark or not, I don't know, but the challenge was always to have the fun, have the silliness, have the intrigue for kids, but also have a layer that maybe even grown-ups can relate to, or that I'm not one for overt messages in songs. I prefer a less direct approach. I think you got to give kids the credit to extrapolate your message as opposed to saying, always be nice, always share, always this, always that, And so for me, I think that was always the fun challenge is the subtext. After the silliness, the layer of silliness is there, and then the subtext that maybe grown-ups could enjoy or get a laugh out of, and the idea that there are messages to the songs, but they're not at the forefront. They're there to be absorbed. So that's always been my approach. Again, whether I hit the mark or not, I don't know. And then some songs are just about bunny rabbits. So
yeah, that's what really can talk about. Yeah, run,
run bunny run. Yes.
Run bunny run. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess when I first became aware of you, I'm very interested in music and have always liked children's music as well, not children singing. That's right. That's a whole other problem for me. But but children's music I've always enjoyed, partly because I think it's really, kids, even babies, often really enjoy music, right? So that's fun. But at the era when I had little kids, a lot of children's music was ghastly. It was it was just, I could barely tolerate listening
absolutely.
to it. As soon as we found you, we really immediately realized this is different and this is great.
Oh, thank you.
Some of it is, of course, that they're funny things for the for the audience, right? And
Right.
for the adults in the
Right.
audience. But also, I guess the word that I would think of is that you were respectful of children.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I think that's high on my list, is respecting kids and their intelligence. And I'll see even today performers, and they'll come out and talk to the kids in a super sing-song sort of voice, and in talking baby talk to kids. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can do what they want, but like for me, like I want to go up there and be real,
Mm-hmm.
and also be able to make a connection without. I mean, of course, I changed my language. I changed what I talk about and how I say things and stuff like that. But the thing that you're talking about of, I don't know, I don't think it shows a lot of respect to kids to go down to that level. I think they are more than capable and hearing an adult talk like an adult, but in a way that's appropriate to them. So that's always kind of been a thing. I mean, and along these same lines, the idea that whenever kids are listening to music, grown-ups are also listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that you say, I mean, like when we went into this whole Hullabaloo thing and we kind of halfway stumbled into it, we're like, oh, we don't want to do that. That's like, oh, it makes us cringe because at the time there was a lot of singing dinosaurs and hamsters and squeaky voices and really atrocious things that no grown-up wants to listen to that. And one of the big things for me is kind of before I started Hullabaloo, I stumbled on an album by Dan Zanes.
Yes.
Like I bought an album. This is back when they had CDs and listening stations. I bought an album of his. I didn't have kids. I mean, I was teaching elementary school music, but I wasn't going to use it in the classroom. I just bought it because it was great music. Mm-hmm. And I always had that in the back of my head, even though there is all this really lousy music out there that no one put a lot of care or thought into. Yeah. There were also people like Dan that were making incredible music, and it respected kids and it respected the grownups that were also in the room. Mm-hmm. And that was forever the model from the start, is like, if we're going to do this, we have to like it, first and foremost, and the kids have to like it. And then the grownups that are there in the room with them have to like it. So that's kind of been the guiding light through all of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting reference. Well, and I was thinking especially, I mean, it's one thing to write a fantastic song for grownups and have to sing it 400 billion times.
Yeah.
But can you imagine writing one of those really dreadful children's songs? People become, if they have to sing that song, over and over and over.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like I think of the Baby Shark song, and I don't know that there's even an artist behind that goes out and performs that song, but like just the thought of that. Oh gosh, that would be torture for me. But I will say that I've got a ton of musician friends that have never played for kids in their lives, and they see some of the songs that I do. In addition to our original songs, we'll do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, we'll do Old MacDonald Had a Farm, because the kids can relate to it, and that's part of performing live, is making sure that the audience is there with you, and those are some of the ways that we can make that happen, and they're good songs. So, but my musician friends will be like, oh, how can you go out and sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for the 4,000th time? And they cringe at the idea. It's not musically complex. It's not a song that you sing to yourself as you're walking down the street. But for me, there is that aspect of, I don't care what the song is that I'm singing for me. Like, after 4,000 shows, none of these songs are a musical challenge to me. Uh-huh. I mean, I have to make sure I sing properly and my guitar's in tune and stuff like that. But it's not the challenge or the joy of playing something complex. It's the bringing that experience to the audience that is the most important and also the most fun thing. So I don't have a problem singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or the ABCs or Old MacDonald. If the audience is singing along and there are smiles on people's faces, that's all I care about. So there is a balance there. There are a couple songs I've written that I go, oh, really? Do I have to play that one? Okay. Yes, I do. People will enjoy it. And once I start, my own feelings about the song instantly go away if people are into it and excited about it.
Yeah, I was thinking, although I have this idea, oh, that must be such a drag to play that song over and over. When you started talking about, this sense of community and the audience being into it, I was thinking, well, we sing Christmas carols over and over and over, and no one ever complains about, oh God,
Jingle bells again.
Right, but it's the experience of it. Right?
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, like, I don't have anywhere near that kind of fame or legacy of some of these rock stars, the Dylans and the Stones, and like folks like that have to go out and sing their hit. And my nephew just asked me if he should go see a Bob Dylan concert, and I had a hard time replying because he's either brilliant or he's not, depending on the night. And when I saw him, I was so disappointed because he was singing his hits, but he was singing them in the most lazy, altered way. And it was clear that he was bored with them. And and so there is that like, that's not the artist I am. But for me, I came to grips a long time ago with who I am as a musician and what service I provide. And I'm not an artist that has to consider himself when I'm on stage. And it's I'm there to entertain people, and that's my job. My job isn't to impress myself with a new chord change or, sing a song because I want to sing it. I'm there to entertain. I want everyone to leave there thinking that was exactly what I wanted to hear, not some obscure folk song rolling around in Steve's head.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I was thinking that is the difference between being a rock star for the preschoolers and a rock star for adults, right? And I guess I would instantly pick rock star for preschoolers.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, like. This isn't a road that I ever intended to go down. And certainly when I picked up the guitar or other instruments when I was a kid, I didn't, this wasn't what I envisioned, but man, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, the life that I've been able to live and the fun that I've been able to have making music for people I wouldn't want the careers of some of my grown up music friends or even, the ones that are at the top of the charts. It's not a life that I want. So this has been a good match.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely your calling somehow. Yes. Yeah. Somehow this happened. Yeah. I want to just talk for a second to go back to this idea of writing songs for children, because that's something that you, I think, do really well. And I was reminded of that when in your bio, when you say remembering to say thank you and please, because a lot of kids' songs are message songs and fairly condescending to children. Yeah. And of course, in my experience, children are extremely sensitive to when they're being condescended to and being given a message that they know is, Yeah,
I'm with you there.
But I think you've done a great job with helping children understand that the behaviors that we're hoping for, like saying thank you and please, those apply to adults also, and that it's also hard for us sometimes to remember those things. Yeah. And so you have, you're really honest, I think, with the kids in presenting yourself, definitely as an adult and a grown up, but that you have a lot of the same feelings or same concerns that children do.
Yeah. I think strictly from a writing perspective, I mean, the biggest and best advice I ever got, and I think for all writers, is that you want to show rather than tell. And if you can demonstrate an emotion, a lesson by taking somebody on a journey, I think that lesson sticks with them. Mm-hmm. If you say overtly, we should all be nice, everyone should be friends, we should, okay, that's great. But I didn't feel that when you said that. Like you said, you feel preached to or scolded or any of that. And I think if you can, anybody, grown-ups, kids, anybody, if you can take them on a journey and show what your message is, show the effects of kindness or show the effects of, like, gosh, I realize I'm not perfect too. Mm-hmm. I think they feel that and internalize that. At least that's my hope. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, I feel like it's better writing. But that's
Right.
but I think that's important with kids. I mean, like part of being a teacher and then for the last 20 years being around kids, young kids for all this time is if you take a minute to just to try and empathize with them and what they're going through, they're learning at an incredible rate and they're taking everything in and they want to test all the boundaries, right? Of what happens if I jump off that ledge, or what happens if I run super fast with this in my hand? They're testing the boundaries constantly, and as the grown-ups in the room, we're constantly, oh, don't do that, don't do this, do this. Oh, don't take that from that person. That's that. You have to share, and there's so much direction. Like if you just think about how much they get, I mean, you couldn't help but feel bossed around.
And kind of shut down, right?
Yeah,
a lot of it is like,
so.
Be smaller. Yeah,
absolutely. And I do think there are a lot of parents these days and a lot of parenting theories and stuff that is more child centered, and I think those are all good things. But even still, no matter how child centered you are, if your kid's running down the hall with scissors, you're going to say something. I mean, just like there are boundaries no matter what. But anyway, for the writing thing, I always wanted the lessons to come naturally. And part of that too is kind of like you say, I try and show myself as fallible. I try and show parents as fallible as well, in direct and indirect ways. I mean, sometimes it's humor based around a parent being imperfect, right? We've got a song called "Dinosaur in My Backyard" that is about a kid that, the narrator is a kid that is convinced that there's a dinosaur living in his backyard or her backyard. The narrator is presenting evidence of, these are dinosaur scales, and the mom is saying, no, those are garbage can lids. And the kid's response in the song is, well, sometimes even moms make mistakes. So
exactly.
And so the humor is a little bit at the expense of the mom. Like, gosh, my mom doesn't realize there's a dinosaur here. This is ridiculous.
Right.
As grown-ups, we go, okay, there's not a dinosaur. That's where the humor lies. But
I don't know. We don't.
And so even saying that, sometimes even moms make mistakes, I think is important. I mean, that's probably about as directly as I ever say any message in the song.
That's true.
Just to let that open that possibility that parents are people too, and these grown-ups are people too. That there's another song that we did called "Use Your Words," and it's about a kid acting out and getting into a little bit of trouble and sort of having a tantrum, and the chorus is the mom saying, "Use your words, use your words," and finally in the last verse, the kid does something so exasperating that the mom is having a tantrum, and then the kid says, "Use your words, mom." The hope is that presents some humanness, right? That parents know the right things to do, and sometimes they make mistakes too, and sometimes they lose their temper or lose their cool, and we can all improve and learn and grow. So that's the hope,
Oh, and it definitely works, especially that one. I mean, for me, I have to say, when that verse came around about mom, know, I mean, in a way, it's a relief. Right. Because I mean, we've all had those experiences where we mess up in front of our kid.
Right.
But it's funny, right? And it sort of puts us all together. It's like, kids, parents.
Yeah. Life is imperfect and it can be hard. And sometimes we all do something we wish we hadn't done. And
so there's something collective, I think, about that you're able to achieve in your songwriting that puts us all together.
Yeah, that's the hope. Like I said, there's that, and then sometimes there's rabbits. Rabbits,
there's so many great songs. The 400 Cupcakes. I mean, they're just so many great songs. Yeah, they're just really, really great. So you're on tour now.
Yeah, I'm on the best possible kind of tour because I get to sleep in my own bed at night.
Okay, so it's all local. Okay,
it's all local. Yeah, somewhere about halfway through the Hullabaloo thing, I realized that I could fill my schedule in Southern California and I wouldn't have to tour. And that's kind of the opposite of most grown-up musicians. Like you can't play, if you're a grown-up musician, you can't play in your hometown 350 days a year. People won't, your audience isn't going to come out that often. with kids and parents, as you know, I mean, parents are always looking for something fun to do with their kids, and is that kids don't mind repetition. So they can come see. I might sing the exact same songs 2 days in a row, and they're just thrilled because they know they know those songs. But yeah, I'm doing 20 shows in 20 days to celebrate our 20 years. So the theme is there with 20 and 20 and 20, and all the shows this month are benefit concerts for Feeding San Diego.
Oh,
which is an organization associated with Feeding America. And what they do is they rescue food from the food supply chain. They work with farmers, restaurants, grocery stores, and they get food before it spoils, and while it's still healthy and good, and they get it to people that need it. So we're, as of the recording of this, we're 15, 16 days into the 20 days, and we've raised somewhere over $5,000 for Feeding San Diego, which is great. And the thing that I love the most is all the Feeding America organizations in the different cities. They're really good and efficient with donations. So for every dollar they receive, they're able to provide 2 meals, which seems impossible in this day and age.
Right? Yeah, I'm impressed.
How they do it. It's super efficient. So they're getting the food for free from farms and restaurants and stuff like that, and the costs are mostly administrative and on the distribution. So anyway, I'm super, super excited to do that. And the community of San Diego in general has supported me for 20 years, and this is just at least something I can do to kind of give back. Well, it's true that the community of San Diego has literally put food on my table for 20 years, and small thing to try and get back. So that's been super fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just processing what you said about kids are willing to come see you day after day, because parents are too, right? I mean, some of it is the songwriting is really good, right? So so you can hear the song multiple times. The funny parts get funnier. The parts that you didn't get the first time, you get the second time. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, good songwriting, is that way.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Like if you go see a band and then they come back, you might say, "Well, I already saw them."
Yeah,
but it's
no
funny.
matter how much you like them, right?
Right. But with Hullabaloo, it's like, oh, it's so funny. I can't even put my finger on why that is. I do think part of it is kids like repetition, and
kids do like repetition.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things for the parents too is I realized it took me a few years to realize that I thought we were all just doing this for the kids, but I realized that there became a community of grown-ups around Hullabaloo shows.
Yeah, that's true too.
Particularly when I would have a regular show once a month or once a week or whatever it was, I would see the same people and realize that they're making friends there. And I think particularly for stay-at-home parents or caregivers, getting out into the world and being able to at least sit next to another adult, even if you don't have time to talk about anything other than the kids, or maybe that's all you want to talk about. That might be everything that's on your mind and on your heart at that moment. And being around other people doing the same thing, I think, is helpful. So I think in addition to the kids being totally okay with seeing the same show all the time, I think there were good things happening for parents, being able to just be like, oh gosh, hey, I saw you at the last one, and
sure.
And like that. So I think that's a part of it too. I think that helps with being able to do it a lot and, play a lot. Probably the most common comment that I get with respect to that is parents will be like, oh my gosh, almost apologetic, like, oh, this is the third time this week that we've come to see you. We're groupies, and I'm, and they're like embarrassed about it or almost apologetic about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, no artist ever in the history of the world will be sad that you came to every show they did that week. It's the nicest thing anyone can possibly do. I toiled in obscurity for the longest time. Like this is the huge gift you're giving me. Do not apologize for coming out. That's everything to me. So it is an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah, it is. But what you're pointing out, I hadn't thought about, but that's true. And there's a lot of sense of community because of that, because you do see the same people or other parents from your kid's same school.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a part of it. Because if you go to a big show, you're not, it's not, it doesn't feel like Community, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess some of them may be Grateful Dead, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You're the Grateful Dead of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like that. But yeah, there's a woman that I've become friends with, and she was one of the early Hullabaloo moms that would come, and she would come to a lot of shows, and we became good friends and would chat, and we're still friends on social media and things. And her kids grew, kind of aged out, and she didn't come to shows anymore. But she sent me a message years after the fact, and just saying that was such a difficult time for me. She was having marital issues and a couple other things in her life that she was really struggling with. But like the one thing that was always there was me out there singing, and she knew she could go, and she knew what to expect, and she knew some of the people that she would see. And I think it can't be discounted that in the best, when it's all working right, that can be a powerful part of it, of the community that develops around it. And, I think there's a lot of isolation in parenting a lot of time.
Mm. Well, it was quite fun. Yeah, my husband yesterday came down. He was like, "You're playing Hullabaloo," because it's such great, it's such great memories for us, right? Yeah, fun. I want to talk a little bit about the humor in your songs. Yeah, and again, yesterday, since I was playing them all back to back. There are just some really funny lines, never give your dog a diamond ring.
Right.
And then too much mango will make a man go mad. That was such a great one. And then, the ones that have that other side to them, that pig has become quite a ham.
Right.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about that. So you were a teacher for a while. But where did you figure out like what will kids find funny?
That's a good question. I think in the teaching, and I'm laughing because it probably is more of a reflection of where my brain is naturally. Like I'm prone to puns and silly humor and
wordplay. There's a lot of wordplay.
Is especially in my early songwriting, like before I developed any depth behind that, like I would rely on just wordplay and kind of double meanings of words and stuff like that. And so I think that's where my brain is naturally. And I think that was one of the serendipitous parts of me stumbling into this genre, is like, oh, I can put that silly humor to use. I'm already making bad jokes. I can turn them into songs and do that. But more direct answer to your question, I think the teaching really did play a big part of it. And the whole Hullabaloo thing started when I started making music for my nieces and nephew. And so those early days, I was around them quite a bit and just interacting with them and seeing what they enjoyed and what they thought was funny or ridiculous. And I think that that kind of goes back to our other conversations. Is it's not super hard to make a kid laugh. I mean, right? You can be goofy, you can be ridiculous, you can be self-effacing. Like there's many ways to make a kid laugh, but the trick is, can there be something other than that?
Where a kid can go, oh, I get it.
Yeah. So well, I also think of Pixar movies, and I think of Simpsons and that kind of genre of animation, where the kids might be laughing at a very surface level and go, oh, isn't that funny that Bart Simpson fell over? But the parents are laughing at some other deeper joke that's happening. And to me, that's what I was always striving for, is like, I'm pretty confident I can make kids laugh and giggle and whatever. Even the line that you mentioned about the pig becoming quite a ham, like most little kids aren't going to get that joke. I mean, that's almost entirely for grownups. I mean, that's not a very good joke, but the point being is like, the kids are laughing at, oh my gosh, a pig is singing and he's a rock star. And then I make the corny joke that the pig has become quite a ham. I don't know at what age you're going to get that joke, but it's probably not 2 years old, No,
but maybe fifth grade.
Yeah. And so hopefully there are layers to the humor.
Or it's just really inventive. I was thinking also, you do hit those spots where we meet in the middle, like too much mango can make a man go mad.
Right.
Is pointing out that mango has man and go, and
Right. Yeah.
and that's not like the pig becoming a ham, where you might have heard that joke otherwise. I've never heard that joke before.
Right.
And it's about mangoes, which are already funny.
Right.
And then and then a man go mad. I mean, the whole thing. But we kind of meet in the middle with that one.
Yeah. And that's always my hope, right? That's where we're going to meet. That everyone can take something out of it. Again, sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. Or sometimes you think you're brilliant and kids don't get it, or grown-ups don't get it.
You miss in the middle. Yeah. I want to ask you, since you've been performing for children and adults for so long, what changes do you see in the audience? That's
an excellent question. It's pretty profound. I mean, over 20 years, I've seen a lot of change. And I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon and a grumpy old man, but the phone and our attachment to phones has really changed the live music setting. The shortest way to say it is, it was always difficult to keep kids' attention. Like the way my live shows developed, it's like they're either clapping or jumping or flapping their wings or singing a song that they know very well. It's very rarely sit and listen to this song, because that's not how kids relate to music in a live setting. It's always been difficult to keep kids' attention, but in the beginning, it was a lot easier than it is now to keep grown-ups' attention. So it's very common now for parents or caregivers of all sorts to show up and, kind of sit their kid there, and they're pointed towards me, and the kid is kind of having their own experience. And a lot of times the parent is on a phone interacting, and it might be in the moment. I have no way of knowing. They might be texting their friend, "Oh my gosh, this is great. Come over." They might be taking a video that they're going to share, and it will be part of their childhood memories for the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad, but there is this distraction element to the parents now that wasn't always the challenge. And it's changed. And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I try and make sure my phone is away if I'm seeing any art or interacting with a beautiful sunset or whatever. I try and make an effort, but I also know that if I'm sitting on the couch and, I'll pick up my darn phone and look at it, and, we're all distracted by this stuff. So I see it manifests in different ways, from ways that the only time it really frustrates me is when it actually actively interferes with what I'm trying to do. It's not an exaggeration to say that I will have parents that will stand in front of me with their back to me, like literally in front of me, and their video, doing a video or a picture of their kid that is presumably watching me, but they're standing, they're physically blocking what I'm doing. And
yikes.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, that's poor behavior in any context, but it's become a lot more common. And, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person is doing it. But, I try to let go of the self-righteous end of it. Presumably they're doing it because they're having a great time and they want to capture it. And it's a different way of thinking of things. But little things like that really have changed. I'll tell you, the other thing that is really weird to me, and I don't know what is to blame necessarily, but concert etiquette has changed quite a bit, in that just applause after a song. I've gotten to the point where I'll finish a song and I'll say, "Oh, let's give each other a nice round of applause. Oh, you guys did a great job. I'm clapping for you." And I will have to make a point of, like, after a song ends, we all clap. That's what we do. And I feel like I'm in a teaching role. Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable as grown-ups of a certain age. Like, you wouldn't go to a concert and have them finish a song and you just don't do anything, right? Like, even if you didn't like what was happening, you would clap as a courtesy, right? And that has really changed. And I don't know if it's a distraction thing or if it's, maybe the grown-ups that are at shows now, grew up in a different way. I really don't know what causes that, but it is distinct,
Wow.
I used to take it very personally, like, especially back in the old, when we first started, if people didn't clap, I'm like, oh gosh, I've lost them.
Yeah, something's happened.
Like, I'm not doing a job here. Like, what am I doing wrong? How do I get them back? And over time, I'm like, wow, they are enjoying themselves, but they don't clap. But it's just a weird, and I'm not saying they don't ever clap.
I think we clapped. I think we cheered.
Yeah.
I think
People, I mean, that's what you expect. Right. I mean, like, again, even if I'm somewhere and someone's performing, even if it's a loud bar and nobody's particularly like hanging on every note, when the song ends, I'll I mean, out of empathy, I've been there. I know what it's like.
Yeah, right.
Clap, but I mean, like, but that's what we expect. And if one person starts clapping, everyone will start clapping. And
Yeah.
they'll acknowledge. But yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's hard not to come up with grumpy old man reasons. Like,
Theories about
distracted
it.
on their phones, and like it's different. I try not to get hung up on thinking that it should be otherwise. I'm just used to, I'm just used to where it was. But yeah, I find myself at the end of every song, I almost never just leave it in silence and let people clap anymore, because
there might be a dead silence.
it might be a dead silence, and that's a real energy killer for me.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think it's that people are. I like to think it's not that people are enjoying the show. Maybe I've just gotten really bad over the last couple of years. But
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It does make me wonder. Well, of course, there's always group behavior, right?
Yeah.
So if those people aren't clapping, well, maybe we're not supposed to clap, right? That kind of thing. But I also wonder if there's a misunderstanding that performing for children is different than a grown-up music, as you keep calling them, a grown-up musician.
I think there's something to that. I think you might be right. I think people might have different expectations, and that's okay. I don't take it personally, but I do think part of what we're doing for kids and with kids is modeling the behavior that we expected, right? And so there is definitely a connection to, I see when the grown-up parent, grandparent, caregiver, whatever it might be, when they're engaged with the music, the kids are engaged with the music.
Yeah.
If they're tuned out talking to someone else on their phone, the same happens with kids. So I think there is a strong connection and a strong reason to keep saying out loud, all right, let's clap for each other. Let's clap for the dancers. Let's, I mean, I will, I will sometimes, if people are tuned out, I will sometimes just clap for myself. And I think, I think I did a great job. How about you? And people go, oh, yeah, we probably should clap.
Right.
You can do it with humor and try and say, okay, this is the expectation we should be setting for everybody, for kids. Yeah, it's a weird tangent to go off on, but very eye-opening. That's kind of startling. Of course, musicians play in all kinds of situations which aren't necessarily conducive to good listening. Right. But especially you, right? Because the kids are often loud. There's a baby crying in the background. They're just all these things. Like performing in a loud bar. Absolutely.
But as a parent and a music appreciator, I was always glad that I could get the CD, because then I would feel like, okay, I just missed that line, which I'm sure was great, but at least I can listen to it later on the CD. Sometimes things get lost. But you were always, you never seemed to, it's like, pearls before swine, kind of. I mean,
It reminds me of another thing that has changed, though. I think in the era that you were coming to shows versus now, the streaming world has really changed, and that's changed a lot for artists. And it's a boring conversation to just hear artists complain about that. Technology has changed. We used to be able to sell CDs and make money, and now we get fractions of a penny from a Spotify play. All that aside, I think it really has fundamentally changed the way people listen to music and interact with music. And again, I'm not finger pointing. I do the same thing. When I'm out here in my workshop working on things, I'll put on a playlist, whereas I used to put on an album. And I think the same holds true for kids. And when they're kids and parents, when they're interacting with music at home, they'll likely put on a Spotify playlist for kids. Or it used to be, you'd like, oh, well, let's listen to some music. Here's the Hullabaloo CD. We put it in the CD and you get that experience. And I think that has changed quite a bit.
Not for me. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
they're digitized now,
right.
But I will still listen. I mean, not always, right? But yesterday, I was playing all the Hullabaloo CDs back to back.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a rarity these days. Like with the demographic that is young parents right now. I think they're not tending, like that we have a new album out is kind of moderate interest to the people that come to shows now. Whereas before, I felt like there were two aspects. There was the live thing, and we did that together. And then there was also recorded music, and kids would come to the shows and want to hear the third track off of Sing Along with Sam, whatever that was, because that's the one they related to. And I get less of that now. So the recorded music is fading in importance, at least as I perceive it, as I see it out there. So that's another difference. Change in technology, change in listening habits and things like that. That does end up having a change to the overall experience. Like you said, you might go, oh, I didn't hear what he said. I'm gonna, on the ride home, I'm gonna listen to what he said. I don't think that happens anymore. I could be wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think that happens as much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it made me less resentful, right? When the kids were all being really loud and noisy, and I would miss it because, I can always listen to it later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting now that we're talking about this. There have been so many changes over this 20-year span of so far in your career. And who knows if I talk to you in another 20 years,
who knows what's going to
Who knows? Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I want to really encourage my listeners to check out the Hullabaloo songs. Oh, I did want to ask you about covers. Yeah. So you don't do a lot, but the ones that you do, I pay attention to because they're often songs that I think are particularly good musically, in my humble opinion.
Right.
One of which is the Erie Canal.
Yeah,
I think it's such a great song. And one of the things you do with these covers too is really pull out the rhythm in them, which is, in some of these songs, which is so great. But some others that you do, Froggy Went a Courtin', I really like that one too. It's such a great story, right? Sends us off into a different world. And then Mama Don't Low. I really like that one too. So talk a little bit about how you choose covers and how you choose to perform them.
Yeah, I am definitely a folk music geek at heart. And so that's always been a side agenda of mine, is to, keep these old folk songs alive. And Erie Canal is amongst them. Buffalo Gals is a crazy old song. Like stuff like that might just kind of fall by the wayside. So in the era that we were recording an album a year for a number of years, we'd usually do 8 original songs and choose 4 cover songs. And that was always it was fun to just be like, at that, Brendan and I used to laugh, like, we get to choose what kids' music is.
We said we exactly.
And so let's choose some fun stuff, some stuff that, even parents might not be super familiar with, or, just stuff that's fun. And then of course there are parameters. You've got to find something that is thematically appropriate and stuff like that. And there's some stuff. I mean, I one of the first things I did as a children's performer is I rewrote the words to "You Are My Sunshine," which is a beautiful song and a beautiful sentiment until you start listening to how sad it is, the real original words. And so I changed those. And so we'll do that too. One of the songs that we do quite a bit is an old folk song called "Raise a Ruckus." And
I thought that was an original.
No. I suppose it's half and half. We took the chorus, but we changed all the verses. And they weren't that they were inappropriate, but they weren't of particular interest to kids. Something that they would relate to. So I changed those words to about, hey, we're having a party, and this is we're raising a ruckus. But stuff like that. Like I said, I'm a folk music geek at heart, and so taking those old songs that I care about and being able to present them to a new audience and all that is super fun for me. So it's just part of the fun of doing it. There are songs too, they don't necessarily fall in the technically folk song category, but there's stuff that I think is super important to do as a children's artist. I know a lot of children's artists, they won't do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or the Itsy Bitsy Spider, or where I will. I think that's part of being a kid, is we have a shared genre of music that we all kind of come up through that transcends a lot of social barriers and differences, where a lot of people come up with these same songs and we have that in common. And I'm 100% good with singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star just because it's part of our shared experience. And I think has some importance in that, for that alone, that we have shared culture, particularly in a country that is so widely divergent, that we have a few songs that we can all sing, however simple they might be.
Yeah, that we can all sing together.
Yeah.
So again, I do want to encourage my listeners to check out Hullabaloo. Great songs, great songwriting. Really interesting to hear your thoughts about songwriting. I'm going to think about that now, about how, the same counsel that we give to prose writers, We might
Yeah.
also give to songwriters too. And
Yeah, I mean, good writing is good writing. Hopefully.
yeah. So I'd love to talk to you for more, but I know I'm running out of my time here. But before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to share with the audience?
No, I just thank you for doing this. It's fun to talk about. I appreciate the insightful questions. A lot of times doing this, you get the same questions about how music happens or whatever, but you've come up with some really fun questions. And I hope that I haven't blathered on too much about the stuff that I sort of geek out on. So anyway, I appreciate that. And if people want to listen, we're out there on all the streaming services, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, Apple Music, all that stuff. So all our music is out there. Just look under the name Hullabaloo, and we're out there. And if you're in San Diego, come out to a show. We'll sing and dance and flap our wings and stomp our feet.
So Hullabaloo, I should just make sure that my audience knows this. Hullabaloo is Hullabaloo, Hullabaloo. And I didn't get, did I misspell it?
You skipped an A in there.
Oh, no. Hullabaloo.
That's
right.
That's it.
Children, learn how to spell. Yeah.
On one of our albums, we shoehorned in this song about spelling hullabaloo.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay.
I always joke that I chose the one word that kids can't say and grown-ups can't spell. But other than that, it was a great name.
Yeah, right. Well, it was lovely to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time, and good luck with the new album.
Oh, thanks very much. And thanks for spreading the word about this and doing the work that you do. Appreciate it.
I put a piece of chocolate in my pajama pocket, and then I went upstairs to take a nap. And when the chocolate melted, a million red and smelt it, and it crawled up my leg to my lap. Now I jump up and down, I wiggle all around, everyone is telling me to chill. Well, I know this isn't good, I'd chill out if I could, but I've got ants in my pants, and I can't sit still. I've got ants in my pants, and I can't sit still. I went and told my mom exactly what went on. As I bounced around, I asked her what to do. She said, oh, honey baby, that sugar made you crazy. No more sweets before nap time for you. So I jump up and down, I wiggle all around, everyone is telling me to chill. I know this isn't good, I'd chill out if I could, but I've got ants in my pants, and I can't sit still. I've got ants in my pants, and I can't sit still. It made my mother laugh when I jumped into the bath. I must have been quite a sight to see. But the part that really got her was when she fell into the water with a billion red ants and me. Now we jump up and down, we wiggle all around, everyone is telling us to chill. We know this isn't good, we'd chill out if we could. We've got ants in our pants, we can't sit still. We've got ants in our pants, we can't sit. We jump up and down, we wiggle all around, everyone is telling us to chill. We know this isn't good, we'd chill out if we could. We've got ants in our pants, we can't sit still. We've got ants in our pants, we can't sit still. We've got ants in our pants, we can't sit still.
Thank you for listening. Our goal in 2024 is to expand our audience because we get such great guests. So we'd love your help in spreading the word by sharing, subscribing, liking, thumbs upping, rating, and commenting. Got all that? Really, thanks for any support. Books, Shows, Tunes, and Mad Acts is brought to you by Discreet Guide, the training company for improving your speaking and writing skills. Also, a shout out to Podomatic, our podcast hosting platform. You podcasters out there might want to check them out. They've been good to us. And finally, thanks to Quincas Morera for the theme music.